Hi guys, welcome back. Sorry I'm a bit delayed. I was attempting to stream from two mediums. I know it has been a while that I haven't been live, but there's been a lot going on. I'm trying to catch the balance. I had a few readings to catch up on. I'll just wait for people to connect and we will do the update. I also do have to mention some of the astrological aspects that are coming up. I know people are a bit nervous as to what is going to be coming, especially connected to the lunar eclipse. And it really does depend upon your own alignment and what is going on in your own personal life. And if you're moving through 2018 and looking back into what you directly dealt with, you know, what lessons you learned and what you're actually moving towards in that notion. So I'll just wait for a few minutes for people to connect because I did mention 9 o'clock and then we will continue. Otherwise, I'll just do the reading very quietly and then I can go watch TV. Get the cards ready. I trust that you guys have all been coping quite well. If you are needing to make a booking, you can go to the link, which will be in the information box directly after. Who have we got? Who do we have in the house? I was going to change to 10 because I usually do come on live at 10, but then I realised I'd put 9 and I'm going to hold true to my promises of what time I'm coming live. So I shall wait for a few of us to connect. It won't be long. Otherwise, people won't get to ask their questions during the session. They'll have to put the message up after and they'll have to ask then. How are we anyway, doll? Are we ready for the lunar eclipse? I will be doing a bit of information on the twin flame journey as well. That's good. Just open your eyes. Morning. Born ready. I think we all were. We don't like to go through adversity, but it's part of the spiritual growth. Yeah. It is going to be a very... Hi, Fem Coach. How are you, sweet? It is going to be an interesting few days. Some of you, if you watch the lead, you will listen to some of the information coming through, and it's really interesting because even listening to it after the fact, you know, I'd done the astrology, I'd had a look at it, and I was really meditating very separately on spiritual paths, twin flame paths. And one thing I did notice in 2018 was there were pockets of people of a younger generation that weren't going through the severity of ascension, so to speak. So, and it doesn't just come down to the younger generation, be it 15, 10, etc. It was also pockets of groups that spiritually weren't going through trigger points and spiritual growth points. It was really plateaued. And I found the energy very interesting observing it and psychically tuning into it. You know, over the last 3 months, I've really seen that for some reason, this is going to be the beginning point for them spiritually having an awakening, so to speak. So, you know, really it's quite important, especially with the planets. You know, we can fuss and bug about it and say it doesn't really directly affect us. But the retrogrades that we had in 2018, it really did, for a large pocket of people, directly affect them. Now, that could have been trigger points and habits, really looking at your employment and seeing if it was in alignment with you, looking at your friendship groups, assessing your power, assessing, you know, who you were to the core. A lot of that does come through the dark night of the soul and spiritual transformation. And you do find, especially as light workers, for those of you who are light workers and you're observing, it's very important to understand that you need, you know, your time to heal. And when you're having your upgrade, you will get extremely fatigued, probably more so than the general population, so to speak. So you've really got to be mindful of your body and upgrade. So you'll find, you know, if you're handling quite a bit, you'll usually get triggered directly before the collective. You'll have your upgrade. You might purge then feel quite down, and it'll be the time in your life. And then you'll have your upgrade, you'll be more energetic. Hi, Dawn. And you'll come to a place where when everybody else around you is quite triggered, you're actually more grounded and you're observing the fact. Visually speaking, from a psychic point of view, I was seeing those of you who have done, hi Sherry, have done a lot of the spiritual aspect of work. You're actually going to be sort of the access to situations. So you need to be quite, hi Rebecca, 2019, yes, we're already in it, but I feel a lot of it will be moving quite heavily so from March onwards. So, this is really the meditation state. It's the time frame in your life where you're looking at things and you're processing. And I was going through a transformation, and this is what I mean by light work, is you tend to do it before the collective, where, on the 6th, it tends to be the purging manifestation aspect of things, and that was for the past. You do have highlighted energy as to what you're going to be working on. That was by the 6th. Now, a lot of that energy was already coming through to me in a download to listen to your course and hear what you feel is spiritually correct for you. And at 9, it's really about being in alignment with what you want, who you want, whether it be right or wrong. It has to be correct to you. Because what will happen, and the Leo King has mentioned it, 100%, I'm totally in agreement with him, is that those of you who do not step into that alignment, what then does happen is, if you're in your fear-based frequencies and you're saying, look, I'm too old, or I'm unable to, or the power is out of my hand, what really happens is come. And those lessons, I believe, will come through, your own soul path as well as with Saturn. So it is very important to understand that aspect, because 9 times out of 10, we tend to lie to ourselves in relation to what is right for us, because we tend to place what other people's needs or belief systems are above our own. And sometimes I feel for those of you who have been more doing, you do tend to catch yourself when you're doing it, and you're really like, hold on, I'm going over old ground here. And it's never that you've regressed. It's more that you're gaining the clarity that perhaps you are going back over old ground, and it's more an assessment state, so to speak, of, hey, have I actually learnt that karmic lesson? Have I addressed that? Is that in alignment with what is correct for me? And what am I going to do in order to correct that factor? And it doesn't have to be in a nasty way, although with the sun frequency coming through during the lunar eclipse, we are going to be in the ego factor of the situation. The scorpionic energy definitely is moving. So Venus is in a positive place. However, you've got to be careful not to jump the gun with certain situations. It can be a time frame where you're going to be owning your power a little bit more so and speaking your truth. But it is a very, very important total eclipse this month. The reason being is because this is going to be the catalyst to your change. It's almost like a 101 test as to how you're going to apply yourself moving forward. Energetically, if you are doing something that is not in alignment with you, and you're thinking, I can maybe change the road later, it could really be a karmic cycle that you repeat for another 12 months, and it's really not something you want to be doing. So when it does come down to that, you have to be quite truthful as to, what your spiritual truth is, what you believe in, what you feel, what your needs are, and look at it from that perspective. Yes, obviously, we do tend to look at others and have consideration for them. But if you're placing others directly above you, and it's going to be to the detriment of your own health, it will impact your journey and your karmic lessons in 2019. So you do have to be super careful about that. Also, when it comes to your twin flame path, because I know when people listen to astrology, sometimes we tend to wonder how it directly relates to us. A lot of people at the moment look at really where you are in the journey. And the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people do understand the term although I believe it's a loose tag I'll use because it's a spiritual connection you hold with a person. What you need to understand is if you are in fact a twin flame, the lessons directly will come through that person. And there were some questions in 2018 in relation to how do you know you're in union? And the very interesting thing is, through my own personal experience, is I do firmly believe the only time you're truly in union is when you are in union with self first. So the reunion tends to be the connection with the person where both parties have learnt those lessons, and they're moving into that space where they're aware of their sense of self. So they're operating more so from a sense of understanding and compassion, but understanding their own self-worth and self. So, it tends to flow better because both have very clear directions as to what is needed. And a lot of what the questions were in 2018, from the shift of perspective for me personally, I very much feel, especially in soulmate connections, I'm just double checking that this streaming's working because it's fluctuating. Do we have any questions in relation to anything we're being triggered by at the moment? Because I have had a lot of downloads, actually. I do feel that the younger generation is going to have their potential start of the dark night of the soul in 2019. And any of us who are not moving into that true alignment, that will really be quite rocky, by 2020. But really focusing on the here and now, this week moving into the 20th and the 21st, what you will find is some sense of a karmic ending is going to come through. Now, it can be at many levels. I mean, we could really tune into many aspects of our life. Yes, within the charts, it does directly connect to it. But it's also where you're bound. It's usually where you are feeling quite emotionally stuck and it's not a balanced situation. A sharp ending to that situation can come through. Now, that can be within employment, it can be within a belief system, it can be within your spiritual truth, it can be within a 3D relationship or a situation. Do try and be mindful during that time that although it's quite positive, through any ending comes a new beginning, but there must be anything that you're feeling is not for you, yet you've been delaying. This is where you have to be quite honest to yourself in relation to what you feel is correct. I wanted to go to my mum's and talk to her regarding things, but I kept driving my car. I've done that. Yeah, it's hard because, it's about, it could be communication. You'll know when the right time is, Dale. You really will know what the right time is. Those endings can come through a few days after, and very much after the total eclipse. It's in blood moon energy. It is something that can, how do I put it? Fizzle out over the next 8 weeks. So if it's something you need to directly deal with and you feel, look, spiritually speaking, I need to say my piece, it might be that you actually need to directly, have that head-on conversation with that person to end that situation. But you really need to be mindful that it's the appropriate way in which you're doing it. As long as you're speaking from the heart and you're not looking at sibling as, the enemy, because that's where there can be a snag in the road, because we only ever give power to people when we believe they have power. To disempower them, we take our own power back. So if you're tuning into that frequency that your brother has some sense of manipulation, over your family member, then you're actually allowing that person to hold a potential portion of your energy to continue that manifestation cycle. So when I had my first child, I would literally tune into it and I could hear her walking down the hall, and I would think, oh my gosh, she's going to wake up in a minute, number one. And she'd wake up. Then it'd be, I can feel her energy moving towards me, number two. And then it was like, no, tune out. And as soon as I tuned out, I envisioned her going to bed and she would literally turn around and go back to bed. So it's very interesting how we can be thinking of a song and it will come onto the radio. It's not magic and we've waved our wand. We've actually projected forward to be able to pick up that frequency to receive the information through that channeling. And that's very much how psychics work. So if you're tuning into your sibling and noting the way the situation's going to be, you're directly infusing that situation with the aspect of conflict to have that situation be far even more so. Okay. Yeah, a lot of us have actually felt that we have been in hermit mode of New Year's, especially with the way the astrology was. I spiritually chose, hi Giggle, I chose to stay home, and Giggle and I reigned in the new year together, very romantic. We didn't have a candlelit dinner or anything though. We had a reflective session. So yes, it was very interesting. But it was purely because, you know, for a lot of us, Christmas was uniquely calm. But really, I think I had this self-awareness that to keep that balance, you really need to understand that, you know, healthy boundaries, keeping things simple, really following your instincts and your intuition and retreating back and having some time for yourself as well. And I think for many of us in 2018, it was an extremely heavy year. So to actually rein that year and say, hey, we've actually made it through that year, it was very positive in a sense of processing, I think, what had transpired. And in a way, really having to be proud of ourselves for the energy that we traveled through and then we made it through. It's almost like we should have had a merit award for actually making it through the year, to be quite honest, because it was a very heavy year. Yeah. There is, hi Elma, how are you, doll? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. There is really an interesting energy coming through this year. There's massive potential for growth. There really is. But there are things in baggage for those of you who had been going through the dark night of soul, had been going through aspects of transformations. If there is the residue that you need to leave behind, you need to leave behind. You know, there is nothing worse in this world. You know, many moons ago, I recall a connection I was in, and I won't ever, like, it's a vibration I experienced. And I feel when you're in a situation where you feel it no longer directly connects to you, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, whatever it be, when you know it has expired, yet you choose to remain in that frequency, this is a very dangerous time to be doing that. It will literally begin to start feeling like a mental prison, a physical prison, a psychological prison. And, you know, if we really thought that the dark night of the soul was the worst bit, the worst potentially could come. And that's really a very, very heavy energy to be looped in for another 12 months, and a very harsh energy in 2020. So if you spiritually are not directly connected to the correct path in any shape or form, and you physically choose to go against the grain of your core beliefs and knowing inside you, it will cause a great deal of conflict. Many people also have had trigger points connected. The dark night of the soul is it's a bit like Event Horizon. If you've seen the movie Event Horizon, when you're having a spiritual upgrade, you get to a point where it feels like every single friggin' memory is coming back to you. I mean, it's a very dark time, but it's a way in which your body actually purges the negativity, processes. It goes through a great deal of different transformations. Yeah, it's really quite horrible. But the enlightenment and the lightness you get directly after the fact. So you could equate it to a similar state of depression, but it's very different because it's reflective energy. It's almost like you're an empath to the max. So people's vibrations directly affect you. Foods will start to directly affect you. I'll go there. I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, we could speak hours for it. But it's research, and I had done a video earlier when we were, some of us, going through that. Mine actually started when I really meditated on it last year. Mine started at a very young age, but it shut down again. And generally, when it shuts down, hi Heidi, It tends to do that so your body can align correctly to cope with the frequency. So it won't it'll only do what it feels is necessary at the correct time. It'll come through in a perch. And people will come into your life to assist that situation. It can even be through your twin flame path that will activate that situation to get that moving. But a lot of you that had been through it, mine started activating probably at the age of 9, actually, and then it completely shut down. Started up again when I was 20, shut down, and then started last year quite heavily. So the heaviest I've ever had it, I must say. Many of you, probably in the last 2 weeks, your Kundalini has been very hot. There's been a lot of activations. And those of you at the end of this session that have questions, I do have to do a twin flame update on the twin flame channel I've launched. I'm still meditating upon how to do both. But there is a huge heat coming through in the Kundalini for twins. Those of you who are experiencing it will more than likely get contact with your twin. Also, there are some synchronicities I have directly experienced. Some of you may be feeling quite nauseous off the bat, very unusually so, out of nowhere, which had been common in 2018, but it seems that it has come back again. Also, many of you may start feeling quite fatigued. Now, I had mentioned that moving into this year, yeah, I've had hay fever and sinus and allergies, sharp ringing in the air, but it will be, you'll get a very, very high-pitched ring in the air when something is moving. You also will feel your twin's energy almost energetically around you in a frequency quite heavy, like they're standing next to you, should you actually get contact with your twin. Another thing you do need to be mindful of is that there will be synchronicities of numbers coming closer to that, but it will be a very interesting phase you directly go through. And I did talk to Giggle about this today. You know, each time I have had a reconnection with my twin, I had tuned in obviously to it a lot more. Although I've been psychic all my life, I've only been aware of the twin flame notion for the last, or maybe 2 years. But then connecting the dots with my whole path and understanding the process, I do understand how the process works, and I have started paying attention to signs and synchronicities and looking back to what previously happened and connecting the dots. You will find, generally speaking, reconnection, communication, or reunion, any of those notions, what you do tend to find is there is quite a large release. Now, a release, when I say release, I mean it doesn't feel like giving up. I wouldn't say that. There will be energies that come up in your mind to a point you will be reflecting upon them. And they could have been quite large things. And you may look at them and understand them at a very different perspective and say, it is what it is. Release. It is. And it's just it's a different way your mind is processing that information. Your vibration directly changes because you're physically so fatigued from the dynamic that you have this acceptance for the way things were. It is what it is. You know, it can't be changed. It is what it is. So you do have this complete acceptance of the status quo. It is what it is. Many of you would have had downloads as to what was happening with your individual path, but then questioned it. When you do come to a place where you actually have the time to tune into it, the interesting thing is you receive the downloads a lot better, but you need to accept it as gospel, okay? You do need to accept your intuition as true. Yes, you will get to the point you'll go, maybe I'm not a twin flame, maybe it's not real, maybe it's not happening. That's so, we all do that. There also will be number synchronicities. Now, the one thing that I noticed quite a bit is the numbers started to change. They were not just the singular numbers, but they were the numbers moving together. So it was 144, 714. They mixed. So the numbers intertwined together and started meshing when I had direct connection with my twin. So you will notice patterns to that degree. Vibrationally, when you guys are triggered and you're directly looking at the path, another download I've been having is that, you know, many of us had been asking for visual signs. So the numbers we would have latched onto. Then we would have wanted a restraining order against them because we're like, yeah, we've heard it before, we've seen it, whatever. Don't discount the fact that the numbers don't just connect to the twin flame path. They actually connect to you spiritually in any given situation you're dealing with. So, sometimes we can be in our frustration and our ego that, it's to do with the twin flame path. It's not all to do with the twin flame path. You are twin. Therefore, your ascension, your transformation is the key to it. So, as I've mentioned, the Leo King even mentioned it, the work is the work. So the work is investing in yourself. It's really coming to a place where we release that codependent pattern, where we can own our power, and it's not being aggressive. It's just being, okay, well, where do I not make healthy choices for myself? Where do I not create healthy boundaries? Where do I allow people to walk over me? Where am I working in a job that is not in alignment with me, but I'm saying I'm a victim and I'm just going to continue doing it? So all of these lessons do come through in the twin flame path. When we're moving against that, the subject matter that you will purge and learn will be connected to each time you reconnect with your twin. So you really do need to step back and say, okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at what's going on. What happened? What transpired? What was my vibration? What was triggering me at that time? And then actually walk away and tune into that. Additional trigger points will come up after that factor, right? So when you move away, you will then need to tune into why you're getting triggered in relation to no contact, in relation to what you feel they need to do. And a lot of it does directly come back to you. And you do find the more you detach from codependent cycles of savior, victim, rescuer, of not stepping in your truth and owning, and being truthful. Sometimes we have to let people down. It's not that we're bad people. We're actually not in alignment when we're not being truthful. Look, I have a lot on my plate right now. I can't do X, Y, and Z. It's the way it got, just really being truthful, so it's not stuffing you and other people around, and being truthful to situations. Doing that is part of your transformation. A lot of the times we have this notion of how the path is supposed to look, and that can be in our life very separately to twin, soulmate, whoever you are. We have a notion of how things need to be. A lot of what came through in 2018, for those of you who were going through a great deal of adversity, that was because you were awakening to an aspect of your 3D, life going on. And again, I'll make reference to the Leo King. He made mention connected to, we really do need to understand the 3D. And it's really interesting that he mentioned this because, a lot of people were very focused on the 5D. Now, I've always made mention of the 3D and the 5D, so I thought it very interesting that he made reference to this. Many were getting frustrated, hi Mark, at the fact that, when we look at the twin flame, when you're in your ego and you're in your pain body, and you're at the younger version of the journey, you're looking at it 3D. Although you have to. You do need to look at it 3D. It may be that you're looking at it 5D, okay? Because we are directly connected at an empath level, spiritually, romantically. So I wouldn't say it's rose-coloured. There's no way in heck it can be rose-coloured. Because in the beginning stages, yes, you believe it is. And sometimes you're even believing that it's going to turn out a particular way, then it doesn't. Also, sometimes you can actually directly look at other twins and you can judge them. And that's a very dangerous thing. Never get scared that another twin can directly impact your path, because that's you giving your power away. I do know that a lot of people have actually said, when somebody has the evil eye on you, etc., if you've given your power away physically and you are not white lighted to a point where you have self-belief, then yes, your aura is down, and yes, you are at a vulnerable state because you believe somebody can disempower you and you're giving your power away. When you are in an energy field where you are in a knowing, you create healthy boundaries, you state your case, and other people directly cannot impact or directly cause conflict to the situation. And a lot of times when you come back into reunion, it will trigger people. So there will be a pattern that is in your actual life that you have moved through with your twin, okay? You need to actually key point the pattern, because it will be a past life lesson particular to your journey, right? There also will be an energy of what your destiny is. Yes, we can look at an astrology, but you do also have to look at the 3D. So coming back to what was said, connected to the 3D, okay? Sometimes you do need to look at the rationale of the twin flame path. Is that, yes, you know the spiritual core energy of the situation, but while you are growing spiritually, you must also address the 3D. If you know the spiritual connection and you believe your twin's going to come and save you, by caramba, you're going to have tower moments, because you're actually physically giving your power away and you're not actually processing the aspect of your life path, your growth. You know, yes, in charts we can connect the dots to that, but your core truth belief system in a knowing of what is in your higher good should also be taken into account, you know, and really learning to tune into yourself. You know, when you're a twin or an empath or a spiritual being, the more you learn to tune into yourself and fine-tune your gifts, because every person on this planet has it, we just do not invest into the aspects of it, which I do have to do some live sessions in relation to how to enhance your gift, what it looks like, what it feels like when you're actually projecting, astro traveling, you know, is having premonitions in your dreams. I need to key point these things so you actually grasp what you're doing unconsciously. So, because many of us have it, but because we aren't aware of what it is, what it looks like, for a very long time, I would actually look at the aspect of astro travelers physically moving. And I mean, for me personally, my astro travel moves in different ways. So I physically, when I'm tuning into the person, it's a permission based. So sometimes when you have your wall up, if I then ask you to ask me a question, you have given me direct permission to enter. So once you have done that, and I then directly tune into the question and I'm tuning into you, it then jumps. So I'm in. Once you're in, it's almost like there's a map and you're looking into that energy. So it's like you're picturing the question in your head. You then energetically are tuned into each other. You can feel it here. So you're tuned into that person. And as you're tuning into it, you build and build and build. And it goes from there. When you're seeing things, you need to actually say to the person, this is what I'm seeing. Do you understand what I'm saying? You won't be able to get to the next question until they can confirm what you're saying and seeing. So I'll give you an example. Mark asked me a question the other day. Can I use you as a guinea pig, Mark? Mark called me up and he said to me, Yildiz, I've got a question. And I won't go into details of what it was. And he said to me, Yildiz, I want you to pull a few cards and I have a question. I said, I don't need the cards. And I said to him, okay, it's in relation to X, Y, Z. Am I correct? As soon as you get a confirmation, you then can build upon it and you can continue. So you look, you feel, it can be directly connected to voice, sense of a vibration of a direct item. It can be text. You can visually tune into text. And as your gift grows, you can flow further and further. My first point was coffee, reading coffee cups, and that was because I was asked. But intuitively, it was already turned on where I sensed things as an aspect of my empath. Then it was cups. Then it was directly talking to the person and asking questions, and I was quite fluid in that. Then it would move to people leaving cups that I'd never met before, and they would leave them at my door. Oh my God, he's going to come out. Hi. They're there. Shanice has dropped jump on it. It is lift. Are you going to come and sit and watch me?
No.
You're going to give me stage fright.
I just got my smokes. I thought you'd already started.
I have. I'm live. And you're like, fuck this, I'm going.
Bye.
Bye. My twin. So there is ways you can actually you can never get rid of them. He is actually funny. Yes. What is like, oh my God, you too. Yes, for the last week. Has been for the last week. But again, it's this, how do I put it? Each time reconnection has been, it's been different each time, but it does come back to the person's core belief, okay? So for me, I've been on the journey for moving into the 18th year of knowing my twin. In the beginning stages, no, it wasn't romantic, and that was for many years. It was easy 5 longer years, whatever, you know, long time. Both of us have had separate lives. Both of us are very connected. But there has been great complications, you know, merging families for wave 2. Third. Now I'm getting confused. Third wave. Yeah, the third wave is so the wave we're in. So that's the age bracket between, I would say potentially some of you 25 and above, but it can be older, much older as well. And then there's the lower bracket, because you can kind of merge into the 2 waves depending on where you are spiritually. For me, being psychic, I feel it was an aspect of my spiritual path. If you actually can purge and heal, what you'll find is you will be in alignment a lot quicker. How do we know what wave we are in? I wouldn't get too worried about it. If you've gone through the dark night of the soul, you're probably wave 3. Okay? You're probably in the next group to actually go into reunion. This year, potentially, if you can move away from your ego, thanks, Stal, you have the ability to, providing you release, trust, you have the potential to gain reunion this year. You do need to understand, though, you need to drop the pain body experience. And I'm not saying, like, how do I put it? We're human. We go back over the feelings. Moving into it, yes, we're aware of how things went previously, but it's healing, you know, so it's, you can't forget the core you or stop doing the things directly that you are as a human being. And also it is about understanding that you actually don't own that person. And the fear-based frequency is what places us in those paradigms to say, gee, you know, you're mine, and, you know, not wanting to share. So when we're in that trigger point and there's the push-pull, that causes a great deal of conflict. So both parties directly are separated in order to heal that aspect. Another thing that you'll find is you'll understand that there is love, and there is love, and there is in love, okay? He's here. If somebody wants to be with you, they'll be with you. Okay? You know, and that was really interesting. It's an interesting question, okay? When you're in fear, your twin's not going to return because they're picking up on that channel. When you've actually given up and you're going, okay, what happened was not nice, but there were many lessons. And I've said this a few times, spiritually, I'm very grateful that shit went down. I'm very grateful because it highlighted to me a lot of my pain body of what I'd never released. And had that not transpired, I wouldn't have owned my power. I wouldn't have retreated and let go. I wouldn't have actually stepped into focusing on my business, focusing on my daughter, my clientele, finding my truth of what I wanted spiritually out of the bigger midst of life, gaining healing connected to some of the hopes and dreams that I really had with him, that I deeply wanted, that I needed to find peace with, because it's not a hate experience. It was just the sadness connected to it that you had to dissolve and resolve in the situation. So it's healthy to step back and be able to process. And again, as I've said to many of you, if you were to then have conflict of some degree and then come back, would you, in theory, be open to hear each other? You know, you do have to have that separation, to have that mental processing in order to then come back to the situation and say, okay, how do we truthfully feel? And many times what you will find is once you can move away from the pain experience, you realize that you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Hello. Congratulations, I'm people. But yes, there will be trigger points, and that's the reality of the situation. But it's spiritually knowing that you have your own energy now, that you have too, that their identity is theirs, that their hopes and dreams are theirs, and that you have, you know, energy separate that you do together. Interesting. He's always known I'm psychic. He calls me psycho or sidekick. He's very sarcastic. He's very playful. He's not like, well, he made me more playful. I used to be very uptight, so he makes me a bit more playful. You know that, Becca. Not a dull moment in this house, I can tell you. It's been actually a very busy week. It has been a very busy week. Any questions? One day. Never know. Never. Every time there has been a reconnection, it's been a different subject matter because I've spiritually changed. If it directly turns into the same crap, you haven't changed. It comes down to you changing. It's the energy at the moment, Heidi, because there is transformations and old karmic cycles purging out. Hi, Sally. How are you, sweet? A lot of us at the moment are going through a ending cycle. So some of you, as I said, will be getting to the point where you were manifesting things in. Yeah, as long as you're not projecting your intuition onto them, you know, because a lot of twins want to say, do you know we're twins? It's like, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. You know, you know, some of them might be thinking, gee, like, what the devil are you talking about, lady? Like, allow them to understand the spiritual connection and feel that vibration themselves, which they do. But when you're trying to put a tag on it, it's like you're saying, right, you know, meeting them in 2 weeks and saying, we're going down the aisle. I mean, you do that to any human being and they're going to be like, you can't own me. And through the spiritual path, what you will find is you will repel that energy naturally as you actually grow through your journey, that you really do focus more on your life. Yes, old trigger points come up, but they're different. They're not the heavy ones. They're more, hey, that doesn't feel correct for me, or I understand where you're coming from. This is the way I'm looking at it. I do find, though, that I don't wish to look backwards. I do tend to be, I try to come back into the here and now moment, okay? And you can't know what is to come in the future, but if you're in your truth about what path you're going, you're on the correct path. And whatever comes, you both handle. Or you individually have the tools to handle. That should be shifting, though, with the Scorpio energy. That should be shifting. Yeah, we can do that, Mark. It has been fairly hectic. I do need to start recording again. You know, between Twin and I, we've had communication. We've been talking about bits and pieces. I've also had a lot of clients the last few weeks. Haven't been live as much, and I'm trying to find a way in which to balance, you know, the live sessions and what I'm going to do on each channel, whether I just grab all of the Twin Flame channel and bounce it back here again. I'm really trying to tune into what's going to work, and it needs to be in a balanced format, you know. So the tools will still be there, and ultimately speaking, the quantity of the videos will still be there. It may just be on one channel, so I'm not quite sure. We'll see. I will give you a heads up, but there's already February readings for the Twin Flame Alchemist union. There's some interesting characters on here tonight. Any questions? Hi, Rebecca. Are you amused? That was better. I don't know. He's comical, so I could actually see him doing that. We were going to watch a movie, but I remembered I had a live session. It's okay. It's kind of amusing. I was a moderator. Oh, God, no. He'd be like, yeah, that would be interesting, you know. One day he'll probably pop up here just to give me the shits. I do know people have a lot of questions. So if you do have questions and you do want to know the other person's part, I can actually do a session connected to that from the masculine's perspective. It's hard, you know, and especially when all parties directly have a previous life prior, karmics as well on both sides. And a lot of you that went through the dark night of the soul, you'll find that this year, if you are not in alignment, it's about you being your own karmic. So really be mindful of that, where you're standing in your way and you're not allowing situations to flow. Now, I will do the update tomorrow in relation to the eclipse. For the other zodiac signs that I haven't done, I did want to give an update for the twin flame path, and you know, for the energy of what's coming through for the entirety. I've lost my train of thought there. That's okay. But yeah, really get to a point where you release. And trust in the process. It depends on where you are spiritually. I don't have a bad feeling with your situation. I'll pull a card in a minute for you. We'll see the energy. That's okay, doll. Oh. You'll find a lot of the masculines at the moment, even just intuitively, and I'd say this is more third wave, okay? Those of you who are in 20s, you know, in your early 20s, there's going to be a bit of a delay, but that's only if you're in the aspect of ego and fair base. Twin flame, astrology, and psychic, as the video was named. Okay, so down to the nitty-gritty. What you will find is in the twin flame path at the moment, I'm seeing the third wave is providing you're in alignment, okay? If you can release the energy of worrying, I feel the balance is going to come through for you and you will gain contact, but you need to double check, especially close to the total eclipse. You need to check in with your frequency of what in your 3D life separate to twin is not working. Yeah, I know. I don't know if I can do it from this side, Mark. I've never done it. Let me see. Actions. I don't want to put you in timeout. I don't think I can do it here. Cool. Yeah, I know. And many of them you will find, okay, I will directly say there was a time frame where you may be looking at how it was and how is it going to be? How will it be in alignment? Oh my gosh, I remember how it was, blah, de, blah, de, blah. Stop, okay? Let it go. Let it go. It will not be the way you thought. It won't be anything like you think it's going to be. But the more you're trying to steer your masculine ship, the more you're fucking it up. You need to let it go. That's all. My name is an O. My number's an O. You need to let it go, okay? Let it go, Linda. Let it go. If you are tuning into that, you are massively buggering up your journey because you're trying to be the masculine. You cannot be the masculine in the twin flame path. You need to balance the masculine energy, but you need to have, I mean, first thing I said to my twin was, you know, we discussed obviously past, very to the point of what my perspective was, requested that they find their language. Okay, because communication in a twin flame path is up shit creek, and we already know that. Okay, so it's shitty. You need to accept the fact that people who love you, whoever they are, don't speak your language, and accept that. If you're trying to mold them like Play-Doh, it's not going to work. Okay, it doesn't. Even now, we're still doing the work. You do the work externally, you do the work together, you're communicating to help understand. Okay, so there's an aspect that you're trying to understand of what went down, why both of you thought a thing in perspective to the situation. But you need to ask your twin to find their language, okay? The 7 languages of love doesn't mean to say it's your language. So it may be in actions, current actions, okay? When I say actions, don't go, yes, but they did this and that. Yes, okay, that was the past. If you can't let go of the past, you're not going to be able to be open to your journey. And you will have direct 3D situations happen in your life to help heal you, to help you understand, to help you purge that. Because it's not supposed to be in your body. It's supposed to be released. And unless you can release it, those memories will come up with other people. The tests will come up with other people. You feel magically there's cutting the umbilical cord. You end up with somebody else and it's all going to be perfect. It's not, because yes, you will have memories and dreams and things that you will create with those people, but a lot of what you will get is more karmic lessons. And that's even with high vibration soulmates, because you are being your own karmic in that situation, because you're physically manifesting that and you're physically not owning your power and understanding that you need to heal. Yeah. Yeah, purge and purge and purge. It's pretty much so. For the third wave is, I feel if you can directly understand that twin has their own language, you have your language, it's going to flow a lot better. But I do feel for many of you, as long as you're not tuning into how is it going to look, and you release that, what happened in the past, release that, it will start flowing through. Okay, a lot of confusion at the moment is actually coming through, but it's not in a bad way. It's normal because of the eclipse coming up. Okay, this is for you guys more that aren't in direct communication, and you're at that crossroad and you're feeling as though, what am I going to do? I'm just going to leave this. It's not working out because you're in your pain body energy, okay? Those of you who are in that frequency, what's coming up is you don't know what you want, and that's the reason it's not coming to you. If you do know separately what you don't want, and it can be the energy within the twin, then how about you start tuning into what you do want and placing more energy there? A lot of you need to focus more on what you do want than what you don't want. Knowing what you don't want, and if you're not owning your power and actually moving away from it, feminines, it's going to cause conflict. They know you know what you want, okay? But then they get confused because, you know, you guys are tuned into each other telepathically. So when you're sending that signal, you're actually sending mixed signals. You need to keep in alignment to knowing what you want. The only reason many of you do get triggered is because you are going back over fair base frequency and 3D notion of what's going on, and you're going, it's never going to happen. When you say it's never going to happen, it does cause conflict. I don't believe in false twin flames. Your twin flame will be someone who is difficult, okay? So there's no, coming to the twin flame journey, there's no better roses. Now it's my daughter. There's no better roses. It's one of the hardest paths you're on. Anyone who romanticizes it has rocks in their head. It's one of the hardest bloody journeys in your life. You can have all your hopes and dreams dashed, only to grow up and realize that the energy of the vibration of love is very separate to control, very separate to ego, very separate to your notion of how the pretty picture was going to be, that it changes the whole core essence of who you are, okay? If you're a twin, you can't escape it. That's what I'm trying to say. So if they're your twin, you tend to have a person that will come in that will give you a taste of potentially what twin can be like. And I wouldn't call that false. I'd call it a person that will give you an entree, right? And it may trigger you, or it might, you know, but it's not the same as a twin. A twin is like how do I explain it? It's something, it's a prepper, okay? So there's a person that might be in your life, and you may have partners, and especially in this day and age, yeah, I just don't believe in false twin flames. I think they're a crock of shit. You will know when you're a twin, and it's hideous. It's not fun. It's very painful. Yeah, my daughter's looking at me going, yeah, it is. Your children will get triggered, but she's the second waver, so she will be activated this year. And a lot of you at the moment, how do I put it? A lot of you at the moment will find, those of you who have children, they may be extremely triggered at the moment and triggering you with your power. Do not put her on the table, and I will ground you. I'm on a live session. I will turn the table. Please do not. I'm trying to tune in. Psychically. No, you cannot, Shanice. Barneys and dolphins and starfish. My sister taught me something. A twin is your direct opposite, sort of. Yeah. Put her down. One.
So boring.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to tune in. I would appreciate if you would respect that. Children will be triggering you at the moment. She's nice at the moment, but she does know the rules when it comes to me tuning. But yeah, the kids at the moment will be getting very triggered, so they won't be their natural selves. They're going to be a little bit more off the Richter scale, and I mean that in a very large way. Just really triggered. So if you're clashing, and I don't mean this is nothing. I mean, if your kids are triggered, they're starting to go through the aspect of the awakening. So don't be surprised if they start learning some very interesting lessons, very similar to the twin flame path. And that can be coming through for them personally. Many of you are going to start having downloads as to what you really do want, and you need to. There might be some great things coming to your life at the moment, feminines, that are going to be opportunities for finances, opportunities for movement, growth, spiritual advancement. How do I put it? Business ventures. But a karmic cycle hasn't ended yet, and that's about to come through. So anything you haven't ended, you actually need to end. So if you feel spiritually you need to have a purge or need to let go of something, it's going to come up at this blood moon energy. You'll also know where you need to spiritually change, where your attitude needs to change, where your vibration needs to change, what you need to release. With your twin, I feel you're actually going to start seeing the difference. And this is for you guys who aren't in contact. They understand, and the reason why they're not moving forward is because they know that actions speak louder than words. So a lot of it is going to come through in an actual 3D notion where they're retreating back to do you a favor, to get into alignment, and your fair base frequencies are saying nothing's changing, it's all the same, it's all going to be crap. So you're not seeing it because they physically know this, okay? So they're aware of that. And the interesting thing is correlating, the masculines are moving quicker than you guys at the moment because you're in your fair base body. For those of you who that's relevant to, those of you who moved above and beyond that, you're the ones who are going to actually have the communication. Yeah, they're going to be going through it. I feel for you, love. Now, the Fool cards come up for the masculines, and it's interesting because both of you, feminines and masculines, have this card in reverse. Part of a karmic cycle. Now, when we get the moon energy, right, we'll deem it as the world. The world is when, you know, in the tarot, when you look at the world, it's a cycle ending out. Now, it's in reverse because we haven't reached the total eclipse yet. Once that total eclipse comes, this energy is going to turn around because you're going to have to release something. With the masculine, the Fool card, they haven't taken a complete leap of faith yet, but something in that of what is going to size out is going to come about where they're going to take a leap of faith. Some of their own rhythm of what they've been wanting to do hasn't come about yet, and it's interesting, many of the readers on YouTube at the moment, you know, the frequencies I hear and the downloads I've been getting is, how do I put it? Many of the 3D situations are hindering them from actually doing this. Okay, so there's a time delay. It's the pause isn't connected to hermit mode. I don't feel an energy of hermit mode. So if you're getting triggered and you're feeling that they're in hermit mode, their physical frequency in the third wave is no longer in hermit mode. If they're physically not in communication, they are directly trying to deal with 3D situations to come correct. Now, don't try and get too triggered into what's correct, especially if you're trying to paint a picture. Don't paint the picture. Allow the picture to be what the picture is. Feel, okay? You need to come from your heart chakra. Feel the energy of what you want that to feel like. But it's not that they don't wish to. There are obligations that they're directly dealing with in order to do that, okay? They haven't been able to completely tune into the amount they feel, right? Because this is in reverse as well, because of these things going on. So they haven't been able to give undivided attention due to 3D circumstances going on in their life. They know the feeling. So some of you may have been going through a state where you're not feeling a twin. The energy is because they're directly doing something. When you can't feel their energy, it's shifted where they're actually doing 3D work. When you feel the energy again, it will be vibration of love if they're in alignment, or it will be a vibration of trigger. You'll know the feeling when you get it. The third wave is I am feeling very much those of you who haven't had communication, it's directly because they are dealing with 3D situations. When you come into union, reunion, because union's with self, the energy of the green-eyed monster needs to be released, okay? Because you're going to see and understand 3D work is situations in your own life. So it can be jobs, co-parenting, accommodation, finances, getting things in order to a point they're able to come towards you. You know, many times when we have tower moments, a lot of things that have gone on, you know, they're not, when you say come correct, it's not, it's going to come the way it is, because it's for, you have to be in alignment to a point you're ready to do team, okay? Reality stuff, okay? Both of you will have the tools to deal with this. Both of you, if you can come into your heart chakra, can actually experience peace within the connection, and it will flow better. Now, those of you who asked me, I believe 2 people asked me, hi Libra, how are you, lady? I do feel a lot of information is coming through. How did that session go for you? Did you use it? Any contact? Did you give it a try, Libra? Good girl. I'm proud of you. You're like bloody twin. Okay, who is the lovely lady that wanted me to pull a card? Don't stress when the communication goes. It's because they're processing. 9 times out of 10 when you're communicating and you say something, they step back and they're like, I might go and do that. You know. Yeah, a lot of trigger points are coming through with children at the moment, almost like they're feeling that they are owning the roost. Heidi, okay. You want to know how it's going, Heidi? Going to be moving quicker than you think, but there might be some 3D situations again that you need to directly deal with. So, you know, if you're feeling a trigger point, if you're feeling to the point where something's changing, something's moving, you really need to tune into it, because I feel you're running out of time. So if there's any loose ends you need to tie up for balance, try and get them done as soon as possible. If there's anything you need to get rid of, at an emotional, physical, if space needs to be cleared, whatever that means for you, movement is actually coming through for this healing that is overdue to come through with. Some aspects of the healing are needing to be done together, so it can't completely just be done, you know, on your own, so to speak. What you will have to do is more 3D work on your side, though, to keep that balance and make sure everything is dealt with on your side in order to have this balance. Does that make sense? It'll be when you reconnect. When you reconnect, you do the communication. Perhaps through a disaster. There is potential, but it'll be something that actually pushes the two together for that question in relation to Hong Kong. Hi, Hardley. That was interesting information you sent me in Skype. It's like, try and breathe through the pain, okay? When you actually get the download from your twin, you need to breathe the pain out and allow them to heal. And just say, look, you can handle this, and blow it out and place it back in their energy field. Because it's almost like it's assisting you with breaking the patterning, okay? So when it come through to me, it's like, no, I know you can handle this, and breathe it out, so to speak. Sweet. That's okay, doll. There was another person who wanted a question. that's an interesting statement. Why do you still feel under their control? Are there children involved? Or is it a perspective connected to a separate situation? It may be a spiritual connection you hold with them then. If it's a pain body experience and it's needing to be purged, it will naturally release in time. If it's a twin flame journey, you will not be able to detach from it. The energy can, in different pockets of the journey, become very unique, where you have this very humanistic experience. And when I say that, if you're a true twin, you'll understand what I'm talking about, because it is a very unique connection. You have a high threshold of tolerance, but too much codependency in the early stages. But when you really do, come to a place where you have that energetic upgrade, you do have this detachment, and it comes across very naturally. It can be through a purge or a breakup or something that happens at a 3D level, but you do tend to detach from the notion of twin, but in the knowing that the connection's there. No, it's not just through crying. It can be through processing. It can be through screaming, throwing pots, temper tantrums. Many ways. Any way you're releasing exercise and processing. Listening to music. Many ways. Yeah, no shit. You're like, seriously? I think you get past the help me, help you scenario, and then it's like, work with me, and then it's like, whatever's going. Hope so, but I have started getting physical symptoms like heart. That's quite normal. But if you think it's abnormal, see a doctor, because I'm not a doctor. But the heart chakra activation does usually come prior to reconnection. But that's when you've moved quite through a long stage of the journey. Yeah, I've got to say that, Dawn. Can't get myself in trouble now. And it's true, I'm not a doctor. Spiritual babble. I just found random. Oh, look, there's nothing that beats karaoke in the car. Yep. Get a bit of Celine Dion. Bit of Rihanna. Bit of The Weeknd. Anyway, I will do another session potentially tomorrow. I will put an update in the, but be mindful, it will be America, AM. Well, it's PM here, so it's AM there now, so it'll be evening. So tonight for you guys, more than likely, in America, I will do the update connected to the other half of the astrology for each placement, and that will be, I believe, for Libra. I do have a session tomorrow with a client. Libra, Capricorn, Pisces, Aquarius, Cancer, and that's for your placements in particular houses connected to the total eclipse. Yeah, I will always love you too, Becca. Yeah. Oh, lately it's been Celine Dion. Incredible. I love that song. And that's really, if you've learned anything from 2018, be incredible. Make 2019 for you incredible. Choose the correct path. Choose what's correct for you, for people involved. Try and be in your highest vibration to move that forward. It's very healing, but it can cause purging too. And, it's okay providing you're not living there. If you're living there too much, it can be egoistic. So be careful, especially with the sun energy this week. You know, be really careful. We can be a little bit in our ego. But, you know, try and keep it balanced for the better point of things. A question was asked further up in relation to, you know, a binding of the two. And I said, you know, should there be a connection? It can be. Yes, I'm feeling there can be. But it might be due to a 3D situation happening to actually unite the two. I'll leave it at that. Won't go any further. Don't rip people's head off. Gain the clarity through what your intuition is with the blood moon. See where your passion is. Be in your truth. You might not, you know, try not to come from your ego. It's going to be very difficult not to. It will be very healing, but know your truth. Know your truth of how you feel and what you love. If you're getting triggered, try and step away and break that pattern. I'm trying. Okay? I'm unsure about that. I was actually considering that. I do believe one of the eclipses, I think they're more mid-year. Yes, in Australia we will, but I'm not sure whether we'll be able to see it here in Australia. It may be at an earlier time zone, if so, but definitely it's visible from overseas, away from Australia. Do be mindful of the weather patterns around that time. Be very, very careful. Like I've said, and I've been mentioning this all month, have your water, have a little backpack spare, you know, be on alert, have the apps for notifications, and be mindful because it can create seismic activity, especially with the other planet placements. Yes, it will.